America, bonjour, hi, Canada. It's Hugh on the third day of March in the year of our Lord 2023. Good morning to you wherever you are. I'm in Studio West, but I'm leaving here to head to the airport with this after the show. Dashing off to fly to the east to see Genghis Kate, Teddy Buddha, or Affable Teddy as we call him, the 9-month-old. Plus the Scholar has a spelling bee and the Artful Dodger has a basketball game. I'm just taking a week to go visit the grandkids. My son-in-law is off doing Navy stuff, so I'm kind of a reserve guard. I'm the National Guard for parenting.
Or pre-traction, as we like to call it around here.
Yeah, exactly. But the deal is I'm no good at anything involving discipline. This is not my job. My job is to say yes, have another cookie, Kate. And she'll take me hostage anyway. I may be bound and gagged, but it'll be a loose gag with Kate. She'll let me go. So I'm going off to Virginia, and next week, that voice you heard will be the voice behind the microphone, and that big smiling face with all the glare that we've grown so accustomed to. Let's bring him up right now. Generalissimo will be guest hosting. Now, we did a solo flight last week for the first time. We did. I called in. I listened. And then Generalissimo, who's been running this show for 23 years. How long were you with Duffy?
5 years before that. So
28 years in radio. The guy's a rookie.
This a while.
He's a rookie. Look at that.
I'm just getting the hang of this.
Look at that pate. You and Ed Morrissey together are like those two old guys in The Muppets.
Well, there's an expression that he and I use when the two of us are together that's probably not FCC friendly.
No, please. Remember FCC podcast, different thing.
I do.
Are you talking to Ed Morrissey on today's Grand Old Pod?
I actually am, yes. We are doing the Dwayne and Ed Week in Review version.
Dwayne and Ed, two big heads. That's what I like to say. Dwayne and Ed, two big heads. And Generalissimo,
we're like the Saddleback Mountain of conservative commentary.
Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Twin Peaks. Ed Morrissey and Generalissimo. They're coming up after the show today on the Grand Old Pod when I head for the airport. News by Republicans, for Republicans, about Republicans. That's what the Grand Old Pod is. You only get it when you subscribe to the Universe. You also get every minute of every radio show back 23 years. Dwayne FM and many other benefits, but go to universe.com. Xi Jinping is about to get more powerful today. Now, nobody in the world is covering this, but Xi Jinping is going to the pretend party the parliamentary session that starts today. They have a big party congress. It started on Tuesday, and he's taken over everything. Xi people are going everywhere. So it's like Mao on steroids. We have an absolutely Putin-like character, but he's smarter and slyer and has a longer time frame. Xi has taken over everything. And that big story this morning in the Financial Times about Xi Jinping set to overhaul China's economic policy team at Watershed Congress. President expected to unveil sweeping changes to extend Communist Party's grip over finance, tech, and other sectors. In fact, it's just the communists coming out to play. It's like the teddy bear picnic. If we want to go out with the teddy bear picnic today for the first segment. Meanwhile, Tony Blinken met with Sergei Lavrov, who was apparently sober for 5 minutes, and told him that the war of aggression must end. I'm sure they just decided. I'm sure that Sergei Lavrov went back to Putin and said, Tony Blinken told me we have to get out of Ukraine, and it worked. I'm sure that happened. The Department of Justice ruled that President Trump can be sued for the actions of incitement on January 6th. Now, I think that is incorrect. He doesn't meet the Brandenburg test, but I knew it was coming. I knew that people were going to try and prove that he's responsible for inciting the rioters, and there are a couple of wrongful death suits that have been filed. I think one by one of the people who came into the Capitol and rioted. Ashley was shot by the Capitol Police. She's dead. I think her family's suing, not sure. And then a Capitol Police officer died, and I think his family is suing, and they want to name Trump as a defendant. And the former president should be completely immune from this because he's acting in the course of it. If you are in the presidency and you're doing your job, in that case, giving a speech on the Mall, you ought to be free of any civil immunity. That's the law. But they're saying if he incited violence, and I don't think he did, but if he incited violence, he would not be inside the scope of his official duties and therefore subject to being sued. And the Department of Justice said, yep, that's it. What a surprise. Department of Justice wants to get Trump. 12 feet in 1 week. Snowy scenes from the Sierra Nevada. I don't want to go into all the snow stories we have. I just want you to know that finally, grudgingly, a few water districts are saying the drought is over. California is basically underwater for 2.5 months that I've been out here, and it's still underwater, and it's going to rain some more this weekend. And the drought is over, but getting anyone to say so, they just don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. They want to find metrics. What about the groundwater reservoirs that haven't recharged? And it's just you can't win. The EPA orders testing for highly toxic dioxins at Ohio derailment site. They don't think they're there, but they're going to test. Now I got to ask you. How many weeks ago was that? Was that 3 weeks ago? And maybe it's a month ago, and they're testing for dioxins now? Really? And that is just Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg in a nutshell. My favorite article of the morning is with the New York Times. Willem Dafoe. It's a big profile of Willem Dafoe. Now, he's my age. I love Willem Dafoe. But it starts off with this line. Actually, the third paragraph. Dafoe, 67, is an unusual celebrity. Perhaps the world's most famous character actor. And I stopped reading. I said, character actor? Willem Dafoe is, he's been the Green Goblin, but who hasn't been in a Marvel? Character actor? Did they not see the Florida Project? So I put that in my bag to take on the plane today. Do you think he's a character actor, Dwayne? Willem Dafoe? I'm saving that for Sonny Bunch, too.
I could see how people would call him a character actor, but he has had several lead roles as well.
I'm going to ask Sonny Bunch about that. If we were back in the days of Emmett the Unblinking Eye, we would do the top 10 Willem Dafoe list movies.
And there's a lot.
The Florida Project is my favorite, but there's just a lot. I mean, the guy is ubiquitous and terrific, and he always jokes about
he
being
played John Clark
in
a couple of the.
He's John Clark. He's John Clark.
Yeah.
And he goes down to you don't want to mess with John Clark. USAA tells staff your remote job is no longer remote. Good for you, USAA. Canadians fume as migrants surge across their border. There's my teddy bear picnic. That's what they're doing in China. Tesla stock is more popular than ever. I'm going to come back with that. Meanwhile, the teddy bear picnic is underway with all the teddy bear communists coming to see Winnie the Pooh, the top teddy bear in China, the General Secretary Xi Jinping. Stay tuned, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Welcome back, America. That music means it's time for our weekly visit with the official movie critic of the Hugh Hewitt Show, Sonny Bunch. Good morning, Sonny. How are you?
I'm good, Hugh. How are you?
Good. I'm beginning with out of left field, a New York Times story this morning, profile of Willem Dafoe. Have you had a chance to read it yet?
I have not.
All right, it's fascinating. Willem Dafoe is one of my favorite actors. I just want to get your reaction to this line. Dafoe, 67, is an unusual celebrity, perhaps the world's most famous character actor, one who came up through New York experimental theater, who never intended to appeal to the masses. Like a Christopher Walken or a Ralph Fiennes, he suggests in his choices of roles as much as his performance that he thrives on parts that other actors might find distasteful or unflattering. Do you think of Willem Dafoe as a character actor?
Yeah, I think he falls under the rubric of character actor. He is generally a supporting actor who kind of disappears into his roles. That's not to say he has been the lead before in movies, certainly, but I think he is generally kind of known as one of these guys who is doing something a little different every time he's on the screen.
Well, he's in The Life Aquatic. He's also in Lighthouse. He has starred, of course, my favorite is The Florida Project. I think he ought to have won the Best Actor that year. He's been nominated many times for Best Supporting Actor and Best Actor, but I always thought of character actors as having distinct personas that they play again and again and again, not small parts or supporting role parts. They've been in 141 movies, for goodness sake. I just don't think of him as a character actor. He can open a movie. He was Mr. Clark in the Tom Clancy movies.
Sure. Let's go back a step and talk about your definition of character actor here. When I think character actor, I generally think he is of a person who is able to play a variety of different characters, right? Like a variety of different types of roles. Somebody who can kind of disappear into different sorts of things. And what would be some other good examples?
Well, let's use the opposite. Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt are not character actors. They are big screen, big stars, right?
Right.
So, unless you define character actor as everything else, everybody else is a character actor.
Right. Well, that's the contrast. This is so when we think of a character actor, right? What is the phrase that usually comes to mind with somebody like that? He's it's that guy.
That guy, and that's why Willem Dafoe doesn't fit. You don't know their names.
Yeah, but I think that's I guess I could see that too. I mean, he is definitely one of the best known of the character actors. Certainly, I don't think that's wrong exactly. I'm trying to think of who else would fit in this role. Well, who do you think of as a character actor then? That
Jonathan Pryce, who was seen most recently in the new season of Slow Horses.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
People who show up for little bitty parts, but they could be played by a lot of different people. I just don't think you'll have to work on that. But I got to move on because I got a dilemma, Sonny. I'm going to see Genghis Kate, my 3-year-old granddaughter. I'm back up this week coming up. I'm off at spring break at the law school. Dwayne is hosting next week. And so I'm looking at the movies, and I don't want to get trapped in another Disney nightmare of PC that I had to explain difficult questions to 11, 9, 3. And, I need Lyle Crocodile, but there isn't. There's Puss in Boots. That's it. So I guess I'm saying Puss in Boots on Sunday. What do you think of Puss in Boots?
Well, I like Puss in Boots. It's pretty good. It's a fine kids movie. It plays well for adults. It's one of
what a relief.
It's a movie in the Shrek expanded universe, if such a thing exists. So it is like the Shrek movies. It has kind of this underpinning of classic fairy tale stuff. So like there are things that you will recognize that aren't necessarily that may go over the head of your granddaughter, which will be.
Will she be scared by it? Lyle Crocodile made her sad.
I will say, well, the villain. So the villain in this movie is a well, there are a couple of different villains, but one of them is a wolf who we realize comes to represent death.
Ooh,
which
we may not.
Is
That's a little scary.
A little dark.
All right,
but
it's better than Knock at the Cabin, Magic Mike's Last Dance, Ant-Man, Selfie, Mummies. I've already seen the Jesus Revolution, Emily, Cocaine Bear. I'm not taking him to. There is a retro showing of The Land Before Time, but that's a throwback. I'm not sure it's on the East Coast. What did you? Cocaine Bear has opened to very mixed reactions. It's somewhat controversial, Sonny.
Well, I mean, it's pretty. It's more positive than I expected it to be. Frankly, I mean, it's 70% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Audience score was solid. I think you got a B- from Cinema Score, which is a perfectly fine average for a horror movie. If we want to look at this as a horror movie, I liked it. It's not high art or anything.
Well, I'm not taking Kate to that. I've already seen the Jesus Revolution, and I don't need her to see Timothy Leary talking about acid. By the way, very finely made movie. Have you seen the Jesus Revolution yet?
No, I've not seen it.
It's well made. It's going to make a lot of money, and it's a trip. You fall into the 1971 rabbit hole, and they got the costumes and the cars right, which is number one for me, and the music.
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing that's new this week is Creed 3. I assume she's probably not a
No, we're not taking Kate to that. No, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Have you watched Slow Horses yet?
Slow Horses? Yeah, I love Slow Horses.
Yeah, I'm just halfway through the second season and remarking on with Dr. Arn, who's coming up in hour 3 today, the Hillsdale. Gary Oldman is just amazing. To go from Churchill to the M1 to Jason Lamb is really... Is it Jackson Lamb or Jason Lamb?
Jackson Lamb.
Jackson Lamb. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, does Gary Oldman count as a character actor?
No, he played Churchill. He's a leading man in Churchill. Didn't he win the Best Actor?
Sure. No, I agree that Gary Oldman is a leading man, right? But he's also an actor who kind of falls into every role that he is, into a wide variety of different roles. I think he used to be a character actor. I feel like Gary Oldman was once upon a time a character actor when he was, the villain in The Professional and The Fifth Element. When he shows up he's got a small part in True Romance, right, as the the Rastafarian gangster type, right? There's a moment.
Now we
where
know
Gary
that Kevin Costner and Sly Stallone are not character actors. They just opened television series that they're carrying on their big shoulders. And Gary Oldman is now carrying a television series on his big. And I would watch anything Willem Dafoe's in. I mean, they could put him in the remake of the bad TV series out there, and I would watch him. So I guess it goes to it sounded like a judgment to me that you're not in the same league as these other actors. Your skill sets are limited to playing very minor roles. That's what I thought of. Maybe I've got the wrong definition, Sonny Bunch.
Well, I think the way that you describe it there as being limited, I think, is wrong. I mean, I think it is the opposite, right? That they are so skilled that they can play a wide variety of actors' roles, right? That they can do a bunch of different things.
How many critics do you talk to in a week, Sonny? You've got these two podcasts, The Bulwark Goes to the Movie and Across the Movie Aisle. So you're talking to how many professional movie critics a week?
I mean, how many do I talk to about movies?
Yes.
I don't know, a bunch, 4 or 5,
Yeah,
I guess.
I would love to know if you can collect definitions of character actor from them, because I don't think there is a definition, but it strikes me as not anyone. You're not a character actor if you've ever carried a movie and been nominated for Best Actor. That's Hugh Hewitt's view. That's my new law. If you've been nominated for Best Actor, you are not a character actor.
Okay. I'm not.
You're skeptical.
Sure well, again, it depends on what we're looking at when we think of character actor, because you are thinking of character actor simply as the size of the role, the amount of on-screen time that
you cannot be a leading man. Character actors are not leading men.
Well, for instance, Brad Dourif is definitely a character actor.
I don't know who that is, so you're right. Yeah,
Brad Dourif is that guy character actor. What you might remember him from. He's the doctor in Deadwood. Did you ever watch Deadwood?
Oh yeah, I love Deadwood. I love that doctor. He is a character actor.
Character actor. However, he has also starred in movies before. He has also been the lead actor in movies before. He is not a regular leading man. Certainly, but I would also argue that Willem Dafoe is not a regular leading man.
I'll try a different definition. If your name is going to be on the poster, and this is a throwback question, there are always posters for movies, even in this day and age. If your name is on the poster, you're not a character actor.
Okay, all right.
Is that fair?
I got to think about this.
All right. Anything else to see, Sonny Bunch?
Well, Creed 3 is out, which is the latest in the Creed/Rocky series. It's the first Rocky movie without Sylvester Stallone, who is sitting things out because of a contract dispute, creative direction dispute. If you I'll just be very blunt. If you like the Creed movies, if you like the Rocky movies, you'll like this fine. It fits very much into that formula.
Submarine movies, there are only so many boxing movies to be had, right?
Well, I mean, there's a formula, and this movie sticks pretty close to the formula.
Of course, there's going to be a rise, a fall, and a rise again, and an epic battle to end the movie.
Exactly. That's it. That's a boxing movie.
It's like a submarine movie.
Right. Have you been watching Poker Face by any chance on Peacock?
No, never heard of it.
It's a very good show. It's very much so. It stars Natasha Lyonne as a woman who is like a human lie detector. She can tell when anybody is lying, and it's like Columbo. It's like Columbo, right? It's what they call a how catch 'em, not really a who done it. Every episode, the show starts off with a murder or a criminal act of some sort. She shows up about a third of the way into it, and we watch as she figures out.
Oh, that's like Sherlock Holmes with Benedict Cumberbatch. What do you call it? A how catch 'em?
A how catch 'em. A how catch 'em. Yeah.
Is Sherlock a how catch 'em, or is that a who done it?
I can't remember. I feel like it's more like a who done it with some how catch 'em stuff. But it really is like Columbo. Columbo is the model here.
All right, the Poker Face. What's it on? Amazon Prime?
It's on Peacock.
Peacock. Not sure I get that, but we will put it on our list. Sonny Bunch, Across the Movie Aisle is his first podcast. The Bulwark Goes to the Movies is his second. Follow him on Twitter at Sonny Bunch. Follow me in the next segment of today's Hugh Hewitt Show. Thank you, Sonny. Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Fridays when we are lucky, Sarah Westwood joins us. Sarah C. Westwood on Twitter with the D.C. Examiner. Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Three big stories out of Congress this week. I've already covered the Gallagher Committee extensively. I want to talk about the hearing that Merrick Garland had where he got just ripped apart by Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz. And then your story this morning about the classified documents. And let's start there. Would you set up the story for our audience? They go read it at DC Examiner. I just tweeted out the link, but tell people about it.
So the Senate Intelligence Committee has been working since the fall to get access to the underlying classified documents that were found in Donald Trump's home. They're not interested in the law enforcement case about how each man, Trump and now Biden, who's been sort of added to their inquiry, handled these documents. They're not interested in the criminal liability, but they want to see how the intelligence community has mitigated any potential risk from those classified documents possibly being exposed to other people. Now they also want to see the underlying classified documents in the Biden case as well. And the intelligence community has been saying, our hands are tied because the Justice Department has these open criminal investigations. So there's been a lot of back and forth between Senate Intel and the intelligence community and DOJ. They received their second briefing this week and still didn't get answers from the Biden administration. So there's a lot of frustration there.
I understand that the Department of Justice does not want to compromise a prosecution. They will not. The last people to be surprised by what's in the documents will be Trump and Biden and Trump and Biden's lawyers. They know what's in the documents, right? So the senators are being pushed out because I think Team Biden doesn't want leaks. What's your theory of why they're not turning these documents over to the Senate Intel Committee, which is charged by the Constitution with doing oversight of the second branch? The first branch gets to oversee the second branch.
There's a number of theories. I mean, if you see an anti-Trump conspiracy behind every government move, you might wonder that they don't want to share the underlying classified documents because they're actually not that bad. It might, in a way, sort of exonerate Trump. And it's better to sort of hold over his head this idea that something very, very nefarious was going on. On the flip side, maybe some of the material that Biden has was extra sensitive, and that could sort of implicate him in something more serious than what the public knows right now. We really have no idea why the Biden administration is doing this, but it's important to note that during the Mueller investigation, which was also an ongoing criminal probe that involved a special counsel, like these cases, Senate Intel did get access to classified information. This sort of argument that they can't disturb a criminal probe wasn't used in that situation. It also wasn't used during the Hillary Clinton investigation, which also involved the improper handling of classified information. Lawmakers got to see those sensitive documents at the time they were the subject of a criminal investigation. So this argument from the Biden administration doesn't hold up to even recent precedent. And that's part of why the Senate Intelligence Committee is starting to think about ways, they can start to flex some muscle and get these documents.
They will never subpoena any. I mean, it's run by a Democrat, Mark Warner, who's very smart and very competent, but they're never going to issue a subpoena from the Democrats. The House Weaponization Subcommittee might to get these documents, and then they'll have a 2-year fight. The whole plan is delay and deny. But I also want to know, in the Merrick Garland hearing, which was so withering for the AG, I didn't watch all of it. Did anyone ask him about this issue and why he needed a separate special counsel? Because in my opinion, they should have sent the Biden documents to Jack Smith so that one lawyer was making one judgment based on one standard of document. Instead, they set up a second special. Did anyone ask him that?
I didn't catch the whole thing either. I thought some of the most noteworthy exchanges had to do with the sort of pro-life issue that the Department of Justice has had a totally disproportionate response to the, pro-abortion activists versus the anti-abortion activists. That's where I think Garland sort of took the most heat and didn't have a lot of satisfactory answers to those questions. DOJ hasn't had those for months now that this has been an issue.
Sarah Westwood, I want to close by focusing on Merrick Garland. He looked pretty old. I mean, he looked like Mueller did when Mueller testified. He looks like President Biden at a press conference. Do you think he's up to doing this for another 2 years? Because he just did not seem to have the energy for being the attorney general.
He's starting to take a lot more flack from places that aren't just, the House Freedom Caucus. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who are dissatisfied with the way that he's handled this, whether you're on the left and you don't think that he's gone aggressively enough against your enemies, because he has been in some ways, less political than, say, an Eric Holder had been during the Obama administration. But then if you're on the right, you see this sort of what looks like uneven targeting of conservatives by the Justice Department that has increased on his watch. So I think that these really let down both sides, and it would be hard to imagine him, let's say Biden does win a second term by some miracle for him. It's hard to see Merrick Garland hanging on for a second.
Yeah, I think an infirm attorney general, and that's what the president is not someone in a position to robustly lead that agency, which of course is enormous and matters the most to Americans at home, DOD abroad, and state. Sarah C. Westwood on Twitter. That's where you'll find her. Sarah C. Westwood on Twitter from the DC Examiner. Thank you, Sarah. Always good to see you on a Friday.